The first subject to address then is crime, and the question goes to Clem. Chief Morris announced yesterday he retired. That's the third chief in relatively rapid succession. Is there a problem in keeping a chief in the police department? Whose fault is it, and what impact does it have?
Well, yeah, it's a problem. I think that along the way that probably some of the decisions as to who the chief would be have exacerbated that problem and created an extra, person in the revolving door. I think probably we should have had 2 chiefs instead of 3 in the period that we're talking about. I do think that it's a problem. Who's at fault? I think we're collectively at fault for not having gone outside and looked nationally for a police chief. I think that it has just been too convenient and too comfortable to promote the next person in line. And while I have called for a nationwide search, I have been roundly dismissed in that vein. And I think that it's what we must do now, and we must also structure either an employment agreement or a new method of getting the chief that builds in some commitment to serve a term of time.
And what do you think?
Well, I agree that we should have gone national for a search for a police chief the last time around, because after you've gone through 2 chiefs in about 4 years, the handwriting's on the wall that the statewide or the local ordinance or the local policy that was in fact okayed by the state years ago that allows 3% at 50, when you retire at 50, kind of sets it up for anyone who's in city service and police to retire at age 50. They have nothing to lose when they retire at age 50. They've got great retirement, they've got medical benefits for their life. So that's part of the problem, is our chiefs with the experience that we need reach that magical age of 50 and they say, why should I hang around for this? This is too much hassle. And they leave. So part of it is the state situation that allows cities to do this, and to be competitive, cities, I should say, cities have to offer that 3% at 50 benefit to attract police officers. So that, I would dare to say, probably is a condition in virtually every city, certainly every large city in California. So there's that issue. Our local issue is that we have not gone out and tried to recruit the best and the brightest from the nation. I frankly would like to get Chief Bratton from LA to come here and clean up Stockton like he did New York and like he's doing Los Angeles. I mean, all you have to do is read about what he did in New York City years ago in terms of turning around the crime statistics and the police department to know there are folks out there, there are police people out there who know how to get the job done, and they come with a background of experience. And so I think we need to be going out there, and we also need, just as Clem said, we need to have an employment contract. They're going to be here for 5 years. I mean, at the minimum, 5 years. I would have hoped that the current city manager would have required that somehow the city's policies would have required that when our current chief and the chief before that were appointed, that, yeah, you don't have to, but, this is an ethical thing. Please be here for 5 years minimum. So, I mean, that's where I see it.
And along those lines, I need to say that given the fact that the decision was made that we were going to promote Chief Morris, I took the extraordinary measure of sitting down with him prior to his appointment and having that eyeball-to-eyeball conversation, because I was concerned primarily with how long he would stay, and secondarily with what his style was going to be for managing the department. And eyeball to eyeball, I got the commitment that I needed, that I could live with the appointment. And so it adds to my really bitter disappointment in his decision, because I don't really feel that he kept his word. I'll respect his personal reasons for doing it. But I did have a question on the 3% at 50. Now, you're saying that that's the result of a state law? Is that what I'm... But that state law did not mandate 3% at 50, and the council you were on did approve 3% at 50. Okay, because... That's correct. Sounded like you were... The council I was on approved it because every other city was approving it within the state of California, of any size at all, in order to retain police and to recruit police officers. And then, so later on, you will allow me to say that since every city is having fiscal problems, then that's okay, because actually...
Oh, no, it's not okay, though. The state law should be changed, I
Okay.
believe.
Well,
I
and then-
believe that's important.
You're also on record as saying that you think the other units should have enhanced retirement benefits. Is that still the case?
I don't know which other units you would be talking about.
Well, it'd be pretty much the ones who've endorsed you. The smaller units, you've said that they deserve higher retirement percentages than they currently have.
Yeah, because they are way at the bottom of the barrel. They come nowhere near where the police and fire are in terms of retirement benefits.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
I was
So,
just wondering how you plan to...
It's a fairness, it's an equity issue. It's not leaving the bottom layers of employees down there at the bottom to not have any benefit or little benefit compared to those that are perceived to be more, quote, more important. Everyone is important in the city as an employer.
Well, I would suggest that if everything is most important, nothing is most important, and I think that you set the bar at 3%. You've promised the smaller unions 3%, or you've promised them an enhanced retirement. I don't know that you said 3%.
I did not say 3%.
And you've also said that you plan to take that out of the hides of the other two unions. I mean, that was your answer was that you would negotiate away from them to pay. I mean, I don't know how you're going to pay for it.
I did not say that. I never indicated that we would take it from other unions.
You said you would renegotiate with police and fire.
Everything should be renegotiated, Clem. All of the contracts that are out there should be renegotiated. They should be opened and looked at across the board for fairness and equity and to find the savings that we need.
No, well, I would agree.
So,
I would agree
you know,
with you.
don't put words in my mouth saying I promised anyone 3% of this or that. My point is that that 3% provides a situation that makes it more difficult in tough financial times. And it makes it more difficult than to be fair to the other employees.
Right, and for the record, those unions approached me about enhanced retirement, and I simply said, no, we can't afford it. I'm not willing to discuss it. There's a lot of analysis that would indicate that they already have an enhanced retirement of sorts because of the cap that our employees, their retirement percentage is able to grow more than other cities anyway. So they don't really have it as bad as they want. I think it's a critical issue. These unfunded mandates are killing us. And I'm not, you know, personally, you voted for the 3% at 50, and so, you know, that's on you. You can't blame it on a state law. You can't. In the same way that you blame, you know, growth on an initiative in the late 80s. The initiative didn't mandate growth in those areas, it permitted it. It was still incumbent upon you to make the decision and to vote.
Are we talking about growth?
I'm just saying.
Are we talking about the police department? And are we talking about that situation, the original question?
We're talking about your blaming some other entity or some other authority on your decision, sloughing off the fact that 3% at 50 has been a huge financial burden on the city, and you voted for it, but it's never about you, it's about the state law making you do it, and that's my point.
Well, I'm curious, would you try to undo 3% at 50?
No, because you can't undo 3% at 50. You can't undo, you have to truly understand collective bargaining, and that is, you know, that's war. So once, and this is my point, I wouldn't have given it because I learned being on a school board what 1 measly % in total compensation does to your budget. When I joined the school board, we just had settled a strike, and the board then had given this raise that was 2 or 3% more in 2 consecutive years than it should have been. It was debilitating. We laid people off for 3 years because of that. So what you have from me is I'm going to hold the line, and I've told the other unions that we're going to hold the line. And I don't dismiss the fairness argument because I think that that's important, but I think that their retirement is more enhanced than they're presenting. Their numbers don't jive, and that's all I'm saying.
We'll come back to labor negotiations.
That's